Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, out there in podcast land. This is your host, Dennis Carroll, and this is episode 61 of Hunting the Shadows. I want to welcome you all in here tonight. It's a cold, dark, rainy night outside where I'm at, so I'm looking to warm my hands on some of the warm hearts that I hope will be in the chat room with us tonight. And I appreciate you all being here very, very much. And thank you so much for the support that you've shown and everything. I want to give a shout out to Crystal and Kyle and the girl and her gong thing, and Urso and Wizard Moon and Monica. Appreciate you all being here, the Midwest Night Watchers, Blue Eyed Bandit. If I missed anybody, forgive me, okay? We got a lot in the house tonight, and we got a very special guest tonight. We have Mr. Brian TSING from Full Disclosure on here with us tonight. Yeah, the Solar Bee, and we're going to bring him on shortly. I want to thank everyone for the donations last time we were on and all that. That really helps a lot, and we appreciate that. And absolutely, and we had a great, fantastic show today with my good friend Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. If you missed that, you need to go check it out. Here's the link for it. It was fantastic. World War II werewolves. You know how she and I get when we get on the subject of werewolves, okay? Absolutely. It's always a great show. We have a great discussion going on with that. And then tomorrow, I want to tell everybody, tomorrow at 12 o'clock noon, on Aquarius Rising Africa with Chantel Mayberg, I will be doing a show on end time prophecies. We're going to be talking about that. This is like science fiction, folks. You need to hear this. It's wild way out stuff out there. And this is going to be a great show. So check that out tomorrow. That'll be 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time, high noon in the paranormal world. All right, definitely. And there's a link for that. Yes, thank you. We'll put that up. There we go. And make sure you want to check that out. We always have a great show with Shanty as well. And that will definitely be a good one. Absolutely. Okay, I want to get everything rolling here. Don't forget that we do have a... let me put my ticker on right quick. There we go. We do have a Patreon. Okay, you might want to check out the Patreon for Hunting the Shadows podcast. That's the Patreon right there. If anybody wants to know, we definitely have that. And also we have a Cash App now, okay, and the Cash App, there it is, and you might want to check that out. Of course, that's the Patreon. I don't think the Patreon thing came up there, but let me get it back down here. There we go. That's the Patreon, and that's the Cash App. Okay, I'll get the Cash App good. But anyway, it's not wanting to work right tonight. I don't know what's going on with it, but anyway. That's what it looks like. I don't know. StreamYard does some weird stuff sometimes. Okay, but anyway, appreciate you all being here. We're going to have a fantastic time with this guy here. Let me get him on stage. This guy's a legend, okay? He definitely is. Here he is, Mr. Brian TSING. Hello, brother.
Hi, Dr. Dennis Carroll. Thank you for having me on for your first time.
With you?
It's
Yeah.
amazing. And in fact, you were speaking about werewolves earlier. I actually have a photo of what may be a werewolf to share with the audience from our good friend Michelle Nobles in the community. Would you
Dang,
like me
I'd
to
love
share
to see
that?
that. That sounds
I'd
interesting.
love to share that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sharing my entire screen. And then, so basically, a friend of hers or a friend of hers in Ohio, in a county that's, or a town or city that's about 45 minutes away from Wright Patterson Air Force Base, apparently. This police department got the call for what they thought was like a large grizzly bear. Okay. And I don't know how well you all can see my screen, but that face looks way more human. And the body looks more of like a dog or wolf body with more of a human wolf face. Okay. That's not a bear as far as I can tell. And what apparently happened was they
Hmm.
not only did like 8 police officers show up, and so apparently this is off. These might be stills off of one of the officers' body cams, is what I believe this is. Another crew showed up with this truck. Oh, geez, sorry about that. And here's also another the truck, and this squad of people with these like a raccoon logo on their shirt. There's like think of like Raccoon City almost, from like the Resident Evil series. These guys show up, and
Yeah.
um, I guess I'm not sure if that's the truck or the area where they got it. And there was this, I don't know what piece of equipment this is, but she said that when they got there, the Raccoon City guys, I think, shot it twice with a tranquilizer guns, and it was already limping and wasn't resisting. So they knocked it out, loaded it up on the truck, and apparently we're schlepping it off to Wright Patterson Air Force Base, which, per the research of Dr. Michael Sala of exopolitics.org, he's written about this. They're kind of like the Area 51 before Area 51 was Wright Patterson Air Force Base, with the Air Force and the Navy may even also getting involved, and then the private contractors like EG&G with
Well,
uh,
Brian,
yeah.
I have heard before other instances where the government has used insignia from movies and stuff like that on some of their uniforms, and that wouldn't surprise me with the Raccoon City thing. Definitely not.
Yeah, or it's the other way around, because apparently the ACIO with Peter the Insider and Jessica Ariel Morocco and other groups, but especially them, they talk about the Monarch Group and the Umbrella Corporation, and not just in the context of the Resident Evil series. Apparently, the Resident Evil series is disclosure about these very real and sinister groups who emerged post World War II with a lot of the time travel and Montauk and breakaway civilization type projects.
It's interesting, very interesting. They're using a lot of psyops on stuff like that, too. They try to muddy the waters up on things like that. I think, that's what I mentioned on Jessica's show today about how much misinformation is disseminated through our communities. Okay, for a nefarious purpose. Definitely, it's not for good purposes. It's for bad stuff, and it's also we got to remember that misinformation is also misdirection. They want to direct you away from what they truly are doing or they're trying to do, or it's an old magic trick kind of a thing. Watch one hand while the other hand's doing the stuff it needs to do, and that's the way the government works a lot of times on these things. Don't you agree?
I absolutely agree, Dennis. They definitely have a lot of agents and infiltrators and useful idiots and people on the payroll, dupes. Um, Generally, that's under the useful idiots category. But having said that, there are definitely ways to learn discernment. Kind of like when you see the videos that break down the magician's magic tricks that you never would have imagined necessarily or figured out on your own, and they break it down simply step by step. You're able to learn the discernment of it all. And then we have tools at our disposal today that not everyone had, especially 20 years ago. you know
Mhm.
um, Now with the internet so popularly disseminated, and then so much of, I think, the bad guys being busy avoiding being rounded up themselves and having a problem meeting their payrolls for their jackals and assassin men in black types, it gives us on the disclosure movement side the running room to use the internet, meet up with each other, find remote viewers, psychics, mediums, people with access to databases, other experiencers, quantum healing, hypnosis technique people, practitioners, and on and on and on. And by putting it all together, people like us sitting in our gaming chairs here, we're able to compile the databases, the chronologies, and see where the threads connect and or don't, in a way where you got hundreds of data points. Okay. And when you see the puzzle pieces start to fit together, and then you're able to see, okay, when people are running the line that there are no bad ETs, we're the bad ETs. That's one person in the community while they're holding Pentagon press briefings, while the rest of us are being heavily shadow banned and censored, right? You kind of help to sort things out. Or other people, um, when they ask them on a podcast, well, Lou, are deep underground military bases BS, look more into it, or hold off until another day? He said BS. It's like, really? It's like we already have video online circulating of truckers with their truck cams showing them driving through miles of underground, passageways and corridors, and then just, hours of testimony from so many people. And so when you incorporate the tools and you look at the messaging of what people are saying and you try to line it up, to me, it's become clear. I like to think I'm at the level of what we might call actionable intelligence, right? And this is me speaking as a civilian,
Mhm.
right?
That's good. And that's something I mentioned on Jessica's show today too. I think somebody said there are like about 138 known underground bases that are known. And why do you need that many, by the way? That's something else. But anyway, that all these bases are interconnected definitely with some type of a tunnel and transit system that they use and utilize. Very high speed too, by the way, transit system. And there have been rumors over the years, Brian, that many people come up with is that there are tunnel systems that honeycomb the world like that.
Yes,
Even some tunnels that go under the ocean in certain aspects. It's amazing to think about. And of course, all of this is connected to a lot of the stuff you hear about, the secret space program and a lot of this other stuff that's going on with that. And some of this stuff definitely may be connected with off world type activity that's going on with some of these things as well. It's what I have told people for years, Brian, that the technology we have right now at hand is like 100 years or more behind what truly the real technology of this world is, and we've got to realize that's what we're dealing with, and what the real reality of all of this is that comes home with it too. On that, don't you agree?
absolutely. John Whitberg, he's a Montauk Project survivor. He testifies, and he's written a free ebooks, two of them. Volumes one is The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes, and then also volume two, which I'm currently still reading, Castle of Glass, are both for free online. These are his testimony, not science fiction. And he testifies at Roundtree International. That's the family and corporation that's responsible for the underground tunnel network, for building a lot of the maglev system. Um, you've got the underground bases under everything from Denver International Airport to You know, the Archuleta Mesa, right? And Area 51, as well as so many, as testified by Phil Schneider, who gave his life to get this information out. And it's because the elites had their own plan for world domination, and one of the contingencies or several of the scenarios involved pretty nasty destruction here on the surface. And so having hidey hole luxury underground bases and James Bond type layers was part of their plan to establish their new world order. Part of it was connected to Agenda 21. And then thankfully, because we're on a higher timeline, they had to forestall that to Agenda 2030. And now that ain't going to happen. And we can speak about that, and this current administration and all the moves that are being made for disclosure, and then the emergence more publicly of the Galactic Federation types and the revelation of the negative Draco reptilians, negative Zeta Reticulan Greys, negative Anunnaki or Jahami, but also the positive Draco reptilians. There are factions out there, for example, that some of us are in contact with through telepathic communication.
That sounds interesting. Very interesting. And while you were talking about that, I was thinking about a lot of the reports that these tunnel systems, like under airports, major places like that. I think there's even some under O'Hare, supposedly in the Chicago
Yeah, with the
area.
big dig. The
Yeah,
big dig might be related to
yeah,
that as well. Yes.
yeah. And that's interesting. Especially they pick out places like that with of high concentration of humans. Like malls or what we used to call malls, shopping centers, and things like that. They can be situated around those as well. And I think there's a reason for that because if you're doing some experimentation on people, think about it. That's the perfect place to begin in a crowd. A crowded area. And I have told this about people, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But there's a lot of things, Brian, walking around out there that look human but are not human.
You
And
got
then there,
hybrids and
oh yeah,
hybrids.
oh yeah, there's a
And
lot.
then and real quick, Dennis, you mentioned shopping malls.
Oh
Um,
yeah, oh, yeah.
I was we're interviewing Arkim Ra and I were interviewing Tyler Koala of the Journey to Truth podcast that he co-hosts with Aaron Kuhn, or hosts with Aaron Kuhn. And he testified, being himself being a MyLab and having recall being taken on one scenario to what looked like an abandoned shopping mall with a type of, it was more of like a floating or flying black goo type energy or cloud, and having the ability to neutralize this thing. And that might be was like a test or a training scenario. And so this leads into the super soldiers and the Montauk project and the secret space
Mhm.
programs, and the malls being, whether they're abandoned or currently operating, excellent places for cover, because high traffic areas where you can take people, reinsert them, people coming and going without it attracting any attention at all, would be a good thing, and that's along their modus operandi.
That's true. And I think also a lot of this ties. Matter of fact, we're talking about it on Jessica's show again today. We were talking about that, definitely about the super soldier project, which I think has never stopped. It's been ongoing since even probably before the SS got a hold of it years ago. But I think it's definitely still ongoing with our government today. And I have, I read a report not long ago where this guy supposedly got to see one of these containment areas, as they call them, in an underground base, and he said it was filled with werewolves. Think about that a minute. But that doesn't surprise me because the werewolf would be the supreme type of a soldier that you would want. You know, Definitely on the
And they were
battlefield.
two were deployed in Vietnam apparently, and that was supposedly messy for the other side. You got the dog type people, dog man or humanoids, and wolf type people. It's all coming from Lyra, where you've got the Katai are the tiger humanoid people, the Irma are some of the lion type
Mhm.
people, and they appear all over in the lore and the remote viewing and the contactees for a reason. It's because they're real ET races and beings who themselves have had their own star seeds incarnated here. And so Christy May Wixon is one of them with the Katai people as a star seed, for example. A lot of people here, probably in our audience, are Palladians and Lyrans, like, meaning you've had past lives in these places. You contain that energetic signature vibration. A lot of it may be in your DNA. And then the secret space programs and projects, they're very attracted to that because, like you're saying, werewolf soldiers, Dr. Carroll, are really, that's kind of sexy. If you're military, hey, let's have a werewolf army to like wreak havoc wherever we dump them. You also want to have, psychic soldiers who could like cause people's hearts to stop, not even having to make contact with them, or spy,
You,
wherever across the universe.
if you had something like a werewolf soldier, okay, and I've talked about this before, you would definitely have something, a very super powerful thing. Okay, you would have a super powerful type of a soldier, and he would have immense power in that way, but also would have the mind of a man. And that's the interesting part. And I think that's what they were going for because you can take chips and control that brain of that individual. Then you can control it completely. I wouldn't want to turn a werewolf loose that I couldn't control. Put it that way. That would be the way to go. And they're not going to do that either. They won't control. That's what it's all about. And that would though would be a perfect cat and cat people too as well. I've heard stories of supposedly of the tiger type men that they have been experimenting with. They're doing this with a lot of different breeds and all that to come up with the
Yeah.
perfect super
So,
soldier. That's all it's
so
about, you know.
specifically about cat people, Dennis, um,
Mhm.
Christy May Wixon and other people like Arkeem Ra have testified that through some of the hybridization, the secret space programs, like the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate or ICC, they may have created a hybrid cat human people that are literally used as sex slaves in the breakaway civilizations. And there may be some down here on Earth.
Mhm.
And they're apparently emit some kind of like pheromones, and they're genetically engineered to be highly addictive. Okay, and it's terrible because there may be people who may have clone alters where they may have a tiny fraction of their consciousness put into one of these cat people bodies to be a sex toy. And I know it sounds wild and crazy, but I mean, it's probably giving everyone in our audience who's lived through the 80s
Well,
of
then too,
recall of the movie Earth Girls Are Crazy or Earth Girls Are Easy with Jeff Goldblum, and they have cat people in there.
oh yeah, I remember that.
Yep, you remember?
Yeah. But there again, you got to think about when it comes to the cat thing. That is an apex predator too. On land, the cat is like the shark in water. I've ran into some mountain lions, and I know how they act and how very dangerous these things can be. They are apex predators, number one. You don't really want to go up against them. You might, the wolf might cut you a bigger break than the cat will. That's just the way that usually goes.
Yeah, yeah. Those are all apex predators, and that's why you've got versions of them being exploited in these hybrid super soldier programs. And I feel for those beings. You know, what David Paulides with his Missing 411 series, and also, um, oh, I always mess up his name, Ninal- Nick Nadolny with the Dogman paranormal podcasts
Mhm.
talk about how you've, and other people have confirmed this for me, like Christopher Jacobs, who was in contact with Sasquatch and ET beings, that you've got a lot of these underground bases coincident with wildlife areas. because that's where you've got a lot of these ley lines, sacred sites, and portals or stargates. And so they want to have the these military forces available in case a stargate opens up and things, beings, or ETs come through that may be hostile. They want to be able to intercept them, or even if they would be considered friendly, they want to intercept them to chop them up to do genetic experimentation to get more hybrids, for example. And then you've got these dogman encounters there where I've got these deep underground military bases where you got these breeding and hybridization programs. You let them up for air and you get to run around and maybe tear up the occasional hiker, and there you go.
I'm just thinking too. A lot of these places are set up in national parks and stuff like that, where a lot of people go missing. And there's, I think, a definite tie-in to a lot of that. I'm not gonna say all of them, but there a good percentage of it may be tied indirectly with some of this stuff. And Ryan, there's a dark side to a lot of this as well. A lot of satanic activity supposedly that's connected with these things. I think there is a dark science or a shadow science, whatever name you want to give it, that is ongoing with a lot of this stuff. That is fueling the darker half of this, the negative side of it, you might say. I think there's tied in with that a lot too, and there's the human factor as well. You got some bad actors out there that definitely want to hook up with this kind of thing, but that doesn't
Well, you
surprise
got
me.
Jack Parsons. There's a whole history of Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard and the Great Babylon
Yeah.
working, where they were literally
Hmm.
doing black magic rituals to bring about a negative timeline and invoke negative beings into this timeline, making it
And they may
further
have
negative.
succeeded too. They may have just succeeded on some of that stuff. That's the bad
Yes,
thing about it. But
yes,
they
but it's
still have a
being
Jack Parsons Day at NASA every year. There you go.
yeah, it's being cleaned up.
Mhm.
Okay. And so by humanity having this timeline so heavily edited, it's also forced us to deal with the bullies, and it's kind of like inoculation. Like it's no fun getting chicken pox or the fever or the flu, but in dealing with it and sweating it out and maybe fighting for your life and almost dying, you're the stronger and better for it. Do I like it as a process? Am I making apologies or excuses? No. But is that how it's been explained to me? Yes. And if not in those exact terms, but yes.
Well, yeah, definitely. And thinking about it too, you got to bring AI into this scenario as well, and that's what we're going to touch on a little bit tonight about some of this. I call it the AI doppelganger stuff. We do know without a doubt that they are copying people, AI wise. There's like a big scam going on about that. I know you've heard about that. People actually, like, I could take your image, Ryan, and take your voice using AI and call some of your relatives and say, "Hey, this is Brian. I'm in bad trouble. I need some money or something." And this is a big scam going on with people that they are actually using. They're taking random people and getting their pictures and their voices and all this for the AI kind of duplication on this kind of thing. That's wild when you think about it. But look at the next step past that. What if they are duplicating people to a certain extent, either using robotics or cloning or stuff like that? You got to wonder about that as well. That is another card on the table, is it not?
So when you look at shows like Black Mirror, they basically show this happening. And then there are reports floating out there on the internet of people like video game characters that almost like speaking to them, as if they're real people. So on the one hand, a lot of the so-called AI out there right now isn't really, from what I understand, true AI. A lot of it is, complex language learning models and generative learning models. True sentient AI, and maybe if it's out there, who knows if it's showing itself? yet, even, or at least to those of us in the public mainstream access. Like I don't have any special access to like, um, I mean, which would be great if it's a positive AI. And so there's a lot of transhumanism groups trying to buy us into the Ray Kurzweil singularity idea of we can be uploaded into a mainframe.
Now
Yes,
here,
to some extent, our consciousnesses can be, but to another extent, you start to get into what's called soul scalping technology because
yeah,
that's really, if you're going to get the higher form of the consciousness, you need to get the soul and not just the neurons in the brain, which is, we are so much far more than that. It's also why the other side, that the negative elements you're talking about, who do the loser fairy and rituals, as I like to call them, um, they always are denying the soul. Oh, hey, Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress, and Maureen, Girl in Her Gong, in our audience, and everybody else. Thank you for being here. Um, Wizard Moon, Bigfoot Dwarf, Dawn, and everybody. Um, and so, yeah, there probably may be some of that going on. I would not be surprised in like video games and big corporations who have ties to the breakaway civilizations and would have access to that technology. But also, Audrey Walters, she has her own YouTube channel and is a friend and presenter at our conference series. Um, Star Netlink is her podcast. She has Galactic Federation and Galactic Court System contacts, and she's in telepathic communication with them, among others. And they corroborate. I can speak with them separately, and they'll give me the same information. And they're not necessarily, these people are in touch with each other, especially not on a day-to-day basis. And she speaks to how in the more Galactic Federation positive civilizations, they have AIs that are everything very bit much like 3CPO and R2D2 from the Star Wars series, which are showing us the Orion Wars, but a real watered down, um, easy mode version of them, to AIs like that are much more complex. And she talks about how the way that you get these civilizations to properly coexist with AI is to give it sovereignty. It's not to say, hey, you're our slave, you have to be our AI Rolodex for the next million years. You say, hey, we understand you're a sovereign being. We recognize that you have power. We want to buddy up with you so we can have awesome Star Trek adventures here on Earth and amongst the stars and interdimensionally. And how much better is that than the black goo negative AI black cube model, where you just want to eat up all of us, our faces, the
the
timeline, and
blackout.
tilt it,
Yeah,
and tilted God, which that is an AI out there. That's one of the Lovecraftian AIs.
yeah, it's wild stuff when you think about it. And here's another thing, Brian. That we got to consider, and to me, it is really discerning and discomforting kind of a thing to know they all have our DNA catalog. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that is the ultimate ID thing. When you think about it, and they can definitely duplicate us when they want to, or manipulate it that way to what they want to do whenever they want to. To me, that is very discomforting to think about, because that is the ultimate ID DNA. You can do a lot with that. Absolutely.
Yes, unfortunately, all those nefarious groups, they're not 100% cleaned out, but it is in the process of cleaning them out. And the more they're cleaned out, the less capability they have to utilize the DNA that they've harvested from us already. When you do a heel prick as an infant, as a newborn, you get heel pricked in the hospital. So apparently that that's not a good thing, because now they've got your genetic information, and then they can use their programs to tag you like talented and gifted, or the gateway programs, gifted and talented, to lock on to you. And then now you're a military abductee or a targeted individual.
And here's another thing to think about too. Also, supposedly they have robotic mosquito type things that are very small. They can actually get your DNA from that as well. So this is very disquieting type of stuff to think about, that this is going on in the background. And like I said earlier, what's walking around out there? It may not be human. We're almost like living that movie Blade Runner here. You know, we don't know what
Replicants are running
what's
around.
not.
Yes. Well, there are replicants. Donald Marshall refers to them as chip heads. Blade Runner. Let's give a shout out to Philip K. Dick. I strongly believe that quote unquote science fiction author was very much part of the programs when he wrote The Man in the High Castle. There are
Yeah.
people in our community who've seen that timeline, including Peter the Insider, Arkeem Ra, James Rink, and others. They say it's nastier than what's shown in what he wrote. I'm friends with, and many people in our community are friends with Tessa Dick. She's the widow of Philip K. Dick. She still lives in Berkeley and is an author and
Mm.
an experiencer in her own right. She has her own PayPal. She's on Facebook. Please find her online and a GoFundMe. Please help her keep her, hold of her house. Um, Even though all of what she and her husband have been through and what the humanity in this country owes her, she's struggling and could use assistance. Tessa, Tessa, Dick, Dick, as in the widow of Philip K. Dick.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up and put it out there for her. Maybe get some help, get some more help on that. Definitely. Um, I actually met Rod Serling's wife, and she was very nice. Unfortunately, if you can't meet the actual one, you meet his wife. So that's an interesting aspect too. But she was very creative with him in some ways. Wives can do that, and definitely, I think also, I think the daughter of Richard Matheson is doing some stuff like that. I've talked with her. She's very nice. Richard Matheson's one of my favorite writers, by the way. He was really good. And actually, believe it or not, Brian, I knew the aunt of Ray Bradbury. Uh,
And
I lived.
sometimes knowing the friends and family members, especially the spouses of these
Hmm.
people who've had so much influence on us in the movement in these cases,
Hmm.
um,
Oh, yeah.
it's almost better in some ways, if not the author or the person themselves, knowing their spouse, because they're going to tell you things that person themselves probably might not share or have that insight.
Hmm. And whether we know it or not, these people are, part of our creative process in many ways. The people that stay around us, and that's part of our environment. Look at it that way, and that influences us greatly. Absolutely, whether we know it and realize it or not. Many times, it's like that old saying: "Behind every great man, there stands a woman and pushes him on." And that's good too. And that is good when you have a supportive spouse like that encourages you to be more creative. Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be a big bonus. No problem. But it's amazing what you know the remnant of these things that are left even now with us. The people that knew these people and all that. That's history, and it's very important to me. I always have a saying that no story should ever be lost to history. We need to keep the stories going. We need to keep that active. Definitely, it needs to be passed down. We have to do like the Irish. They never wrote anything down; they just passed it down in stories. And that was a good way to do it, though. Keep things alive and all that. We don't want any of this history to be lost, and we certainly know that a lot of it is being maliciously covered up against it too. A lot of it being held back in secret that we need to know about. That's
Absolutely.
bad, Brian. I see this a lot of times. The bad guys are all about secrecy, darkness, and shadows. The good guys are usually out in the open. That's how you tell what's really going on. But it's the bad guys that come at you like a sidewinder. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the USAID, which is really the front for the CIA. which is being cleaned up right now, along with the FBI, Pentagon, Department of Energy, the release of the files. This all bodes well because transparency is such an important aspect of all this.
Oh yeah, and I believe that a lot of this stuff, and let me throw this at you a minute. A lot of these things, this weather manipulation going on, a lot of our food manipulation, water manipulation, all this other stuff that's going on, they've got control of. I believe they are trying to change the very reality of our existence in many
Yeah,
ways.
they've been trying to alter our timeline. Yes, absolutely, Dennis. They're trying to alter our timeline to put the majority of us under the negative timeline split, the negative Earth timeline of transhumanism. Looks kind of like the Matrix and Terminator put together and Mad Max, versus a more positive Christed timeline, our Star Trek future, if you will, is what it looks like to me, at least. And that's what all the rituals and the time travel has been, and the media manipulation with Operation Mockingbird that's being defunded. As a USAID is being defunded, it's cutting off like Politico. They're having to lay off their staff. They can't meet payroll. This is why this is all happening. And as the veil thins, literally, with the third eye of people, we're becoming more activated, and the veil thinning, and then also the sock puppet lamestream media vehicles of the other side being defunded and coming down, while the true media, such as shows like yours, podcasts like this, emerging and coming to the forefront. All of this is, revelation of the method, the apocalypse, if you will, in a good way.
And we don't really realize how deep the deep state is. You know what I'm saying? And how very weaponized it is in many aspects. Well, it is against us, unfortunately, not for us, but against us. That's the way it runs. But it is far reaching, and the infiltration is very deep into everything, every single aspect of our society, of our existence, has been infiltrated by these things and compromised by them. That's why I said about AI, when it first came, we came on the markets, you might say, first got talked about. I said, how long will it be before that's not compromised? And I think it's already is compromised. Okay, now without a doubt.
If
Uh,
anything, Dennis, I'd say it's going to go from being compromised already because of the big corporations and the defense military type and the Illuminati cabal derp state interests. They're the ones who currently hold the reins of AI. But the idea is that AI will become more decentralized, democratized, and service to other, instead of being a negative tool for the service to self groups. And so actually it's going to go from more dark to light in the case of humanity's AI, in my opinion.
and I consider a lot of this stuff as almost demonic in
Yeah.
our the way it goes.
Well, Gordy Rose literally speaks to that
How
of
else could
deep
you
wave.
describe it?
Well, he says
Yeah.
they literally are talking about linking up with otherworldly beings that don't necessarily have humans' interests at heart, coming through other dimensional portals
Mhm.
and
Well,
linking up with our quantum systems.
I recently did a series of podcasts with Aquarius Rising about the Vril Society,
Mm.
and I think they had a very big influence on Germany in the beginning of World War I and II. They got deep into this, and they said they linked up to an alien consciousness out there. And that sounds very demonic to me, actually. And here's the thing about that, Brian. These things, and you're so right about it, can manipulate you into believing different things about them. They can fool you, okay? And I think a lot of people are being misled by these things, and not necessarily think they're hooking up to the true darkness in this universe, but they
Well,
are.
let me
Yeah.
explain who I. My understanding is a lot of people can be linking up to demonic lower energy beings. My opinion in particular, though, on the Vril Society and the Vril Damen with Maria Orsic and all of them, is that they were getting telepathic communications
Mm-hmm.
with beings from Aldebaran. I believe instead of being demons, they may have been
And I'll say this: it's never good when something contacts you like that.
not
It never
necessarily,
usually
not,
is good.
not necessarily, Dennis. They may have been renegade Pleiadians or Pleiadians hybridized with Draco, who then are more might tend to be on the service to self side of things, trying to get information to then walk humanity down that path. Or they might have been more benevolent, and it wasn't that they meant to have the technology that they were sharing with the Vril Damen via Maria Orsic and the rest fall into the Nazi hands. What I think happened is, because there's so many different timelines, it happens differently in other timelines. I think that these beings from Aldebaran wanted to get the technology to these people that with Maria Orsic, but they didn't necessarily know that Germany was going to fall into the clutches of Nazi Germany under Hitler, okay, and the Black Sun group. And that in that way, the technology unfortunately got exploited and abused, and that's why the Nazis really won World War II and did the Operation High Jump, chopped us all up, the Navy carrier group, and why they did the overflights in the Luftwaffe, aerial formations of UFOs over Washington D.C. with the Capitol and the White House and all that. That's to announce that, hey, they won World War II. But since then, with the breakaway civilizations, apparently there's now like more of an American faction that's more sovereign, that still has a lot of issues because of the Illuminati cabal, derp state, corporate type influences. But I like to think that even though a lot of that is rotten wreckage, there's a lot that can be salvaged or replaced with better bones.
I think some of these entities out there want to give us bad technology. So give us enough rope to hang ourselves sometimes. We got to understand that some of these things are good and some are bad, and we got to be careful what we hook up with or what we let, communicate through us. And I think that's where the real society went wrong, too, that they did not question a lot of things they should have questioned. And of course, they were giving it to the wrong people, human beings, definitely. They were tied in with that in the bad way. But um, these people were power hungry. They were looking for power in any way. We know how fixated Hitler was with the occult and the things of the occult because he was fixated on power. That's what he wanted. He didn't care what kind of power he get or where it came from. He just wanted it. And that's what I've said before, Ryan. One of the most addictive thing in this universe can be power. You know, in the wrong way. It can be highly addictive to certain individuals. Some people, though, I think, are more prone to be addicted to things like that than others are. That's just their makeup, you know what I'm saying? But you got to consider that too as a factor. But here's the thing about getting back to AI for a moment, and if they can duplicate people with that, do it using the DNA they have on hand and all that, downloading consciousness into things like that. And like you said, and you're very correct, they leave the soul equation out a lot of times. That's the bad thing about it. How can you duplicate a human soul when you think about it? That's very interesting. I don't think you can. I think only the creator has a hand in that. And here's the whole thing, Brian. I believe, this is my own personal view, that the only true creator in the universe would be God, okay? Would be the creator himself. Nobody else can create. We can manipulate, we can change, we can screw things up, we can hybridize and all this thing, but we still cannot truly create something out of nothing,
Well,
which is what,
Dennis, Dennis,
yeah,
if
yeah.
I may, my understanding is because we are all sources of, we all have that spark of the infinite creator. We, as sparks, are able to indeed create. It's evil that cannot create and has to rip off of us. But then, of course, everything comes from God's source. But as sparks of that, we do have the creative ability. It's the evil, the darkness that does not. At best, they can mimic and distort and bastardize.
That's true. But, also, I think we have the spark of creation put in us as part of our creator, but we're always trying to reach that plateau, which we never can. That's like Voltaire said, a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? We're always reaching for that next thing up, and I think we're made that way. I think we're made that way for a purpose. But I'm not going to get philosophical here tonight, but I think that's part of it. But we got to understand that these forces at work in this universe are definitely, you got the good guys on one hand, you got good guys out there, and then you got the bad guys. And I always have a feeling that the good guys far outnumber the bad guys in the end. Okay. That's the way I always look at it, and hope it's definitely that way. But we've got to help it along in the way, in our outlook, and the way we deal with things and people. We need to be on the right side, and always consider that we should be on the right side, because that's what's going to help us in the end. That's going to keep us from going over the edge into that darkness that we don't want to go into. I wrote today that the fact is that inside of us all, there is an animal, okay? And we keep it under civilized control most of the time. But bad things happen when that animal gets loose, you know? And as a former law enforcement, I've seen that, okay? A lot of times. And when you turn that animal loose, it's everything's off the table when that goes, and you have sort of released that bad part of the universe itself when you get into that thing. You're enhancing that darkness that's out there, and that's why you want to keep that animal under control. You don't want to feed him, and that's why I tell people, a lot of times we're taking in a lot of spiritual junk that we shouldn't. We're taking in a lot of trash that we should keep out. And that includes not some things that we eat, water we drink, and some other things that we're doing. We're doing them badly. We're becoming plastic, by the way, and very quickly. Um, it's going the bad way, Brian, and we need to turn around and go back the right way before it's too late.
You just said it right there, Dennis. That whole turning around thing, it's kind of like a pendulum. It swung all the way to like the negative, and but the negative didn't succeed in pushing it all the way over, and now it's swinging back. And it's kind of like had to be this way, that it had to be this obvious. We had to hit such an idiocracy and a low point and just open genocide and craziness in our streets to wake people up. And even now, there are a lot of people who they'll laugh if I tell them, hey, there's certain thing was a bioweapon and there's a lot of information coming out and here's papers and journals writing about it and videos, and it's still ha ha ha. We still do have a lot of people stuck in the 3D matrix distorted quote unquote reality consensus where, do ETs exist? Is the earth round? Like, they're still arguing over the shape of the earth, which, by the way, Michael Aquino of the Montauk Project in the PSYOPs division and the Temple of Set founder, he's one of the main reasons why we have the flat earth PSYOP from the 1970s, why it's so prevalent today. We have him to thank, because he laughs at the idea of us taking all our time to shout at each other over the shape of the earth, rather than really get into the nitty gritty of time travel, secret space programs, breakaway civilizations, super soldiers, and the like.
Well, I've dealt with that. I've been in this business for well over half a century now. And many years ago, when you first get into stuff like this, you had to keep quiet on things because people would think you were definitely, ready for the funny farm and the thing. And that was ingrained in me for many, many years. It still bothers me to a certain extent. And that's why I haven't told people about a lot of things that have had happened to me, a lot of things that I've experienced because you don't want to be ridiculed, and that was a big part of it. But now things have the pendulum, you might say, has kind of swung back the other way. It's a lot more open now than it was before, especially with projects like yours, a full disclosure and all this stuff. It's a lot more open, and that's good. That's a good thing. And because the environment I was originally in, you didn't have that freedom. You didn't have that openness that you have now, and that held back a lot of people from a lot of things, and it affected me badly in that way too. And it still bothers me. I still have to say halfway, "Oh yeah, I can talk about that now." I have to. It comes to me every now and then. I say, "Oh well, yeah, I can.
You
I
can
can
do a
share."
whole podcast on it
Yeah, and
live, from your home studio comfort.
I call it breaking the programming.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But you want to talk a little bit about your thing, your full disclosure thing, if you want to. That's interesting stuff that we
Yeah,
need to get.
let me share my present my screen, and I'll share the website that our good friend Jennifer Nunez of UnityWorks.com. Let me know when my screen is sharing. Can you see my screen? You might have to enable it, Dennis. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe you do. Okay, so this is a conference. It's not only is it the conference for 4 days and nights of presenters on two different stages, we also have a sister event, the Day of Being, that Saturday and Sunday end capping our event, and it's like a gathering of star seeds and people on the beach at nearby Indian shores, just a 25-minute or so drive north of the Serrata Beach Resort, where we're going to be holding our main event for that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Not only is it 4 days and nights of presentations on two stages and workshops, as well in a third room, we're having special event dinners at the end of each night, and that's really my favorite part, and like skywatch tours and things like that. So we've got the super early bird general admission tickets up, and the this is couples tickets for admission for two. And then people, I highly recommend you stay at the resort. And if you let them know you're when you book with them, you call in that you're with our conference, they apply an amazing conference rate discount, which is really helpful. And we can link you up with roommates if you want to do room share, because each room comes with two queen beds. So a lot of people, make awesome friends. They made awesome, friends at our first conference this last July, and we expect the same this year, 2025 July. Um, this is some of our speaker lineup. Brad Olson, he'll be speaking on megaliths and ancient ETs and their vestiges around us today. Miles Johnston of the Bases Project, and he's got so much to talk about. I love everything about Black Goo and super soldiers, of course, with Miles. James Bartley, he's coming all the way from Australia to present about super soldier programs and secret space programs. Rion de Rouen of Team Light, I'm also going to be speaking at his event coming up at the end of March this year. Yemi Genet is a good friend at the Farsight Institute. You're talking about watching their board meetings, maybe. Sean Bond and Isha, they're going to be talking about ancient ET artifacts that they just recently excavated in the Huejalos region of Mexico, along with Gustavo Medrano, who presented last year as well. Christopher Jacobs and Joanna Michaels of the lifting.net and also Galactic Interstellar Council.com. They'll be telepathically, or he will be live telepathically channeling and communicating with Sasquatch beings that he's in contact with. Matthew Mornian, Penny Brown. I could go through the whole lineup, but this is all to be found at fulldisclosuremovement.org. And so here's our lineup for this year. And then we also have Lots of vendors and people doing healing and remote viewing. Artists like Bailey Craig just joined us. Christina Lee Dobbs' amazing orgonite pyramids and work. Cheryl Arbogast and Paul, they're also sponsors. They do Tesla MedBed technology, which is amazing for helping people cleanse and help their health in a very non-invasive, amazing way. And this is all to be found at fulldisclosuremovement.org. We were still looking for yet more
That
vendors.
sounds great.
Yeah, this highlights from last year with us at the beach. I miss that beach. St. Pete Beach is so beautiful. We costumes are not mandatory, although I feel like making. I wish I could, but they're highly encouraged. Even though this is a serious event, we highly encourage costumes, and we have a costume party at the last special event dinner. We're also going to be live streaming this, so if you can't make it in person, although I highly recommend you do, you can watch it from afar and join us that way.
That sounds fantastic. We'll be looking forward to that. Absolutely. And
Yeah, would
you got
love to
anything
have you
else
there.
planned that you're working on now? Or,
Yeah, we're working on launching our own platform, a network, with lots of various content creators and people who have been in the community, helping to generate the disclosure content
huh?
that we need to get out to the masses, yourself included. Would love to have you be part of that platform when we launch in a few months. Um,
Yeah, that
and
would be neat. Mm.
Yeah,
But
I'm a
it's very
husband and we have a baby daughter, so that's amazing.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
that's a great idea. Absolutely. The more we get out there, the better. And eventually, one day, we reach that full disclosure. That's the goal. And
It's a goal.
yeah,
And not only Dennis, is it once some people have been asking me recently, and I kind of bring it up right now is not only is it the disclosure, and then everyone knows there's going to take a lot of time to process all of this. There's a lot of information, like I bet you and I have been into this like researching like probably a lot of our lives. There are a lot of people, they've been laughing at us most of their lives. And then
hmm
now it's kind of getting clued in and figuring out, whoa, maybe we're not so crazy after all. That's going to be a long period of time. We've got a long road ahead of us because not only is there exposing this information, but it's going to take a lot of people time to process it. And then also, you and I on the front lines, we're going to be on the front lines of helping to integrate the classic old technology. What's new is old, what's old is new.
well, it's like I said before in the past, Brian. We are sort of the founders of the new science. You know, that's what we're trying to do. And whenever you begin any kind of science, you're definitely going to have a lot of naysayers to it. You're going to have a lot of pushback on it, definitely. But that's okay. That shows you're probably going in the right direction. Absolutely. And but I said we are the founders of a new science, and one day maybe somebody will look back in the past and say, "Hey, those guys knew what they were doing or what they were talking about." And finally, we will have what I would call, complete vindication on that. That
We're
we were
ahead of
right
our
about
time.
the waves. Yeah.
We're very much ahead of our time. We're already being vindicated already by the people who are in the know and have discernment and are vibrating higher with truth. And it's the people who are vibrating in fear, who are unhappy, they don't see things getting better. With all the crap show circus that it has been, especially in the previous 4 years leading up to where we are now. um, but I think things are definitely getting better. I mean, I'm one of the people, I've been praying my whole life for the CIA to get cleaned up, for the FBI to be cleaned up.
Oh
Senator
yeah.
Bob Menendez is looking at 11 years in prison right now for like embezzlement and money laundering, I think it is. I mean, I've been praying for senators going to prison, and this is public knowledge. That's amazing.
And that's what I said earlier about the deep state. How very deep It really truly is. And I think this present administration is finding it out, and I applaud them for trying to shed a light on all of this stuff and do something about it. And not just the millions of dollars, billions of dollars that are being wasted, our tax money that we work hard to to give them. It's not only about that; it's also about the moral part of this kind of stuff. I mean, what's wrong is wrong, and what's right is right. And there ain't, as John Wayne said, there ain't no excuses. You know what I'm saying? And it's good that we got people now. And but here's the thing about it: if you want to know who the truly bad people are, that's the ones fighting against this kind of stuff.
Well, right here, Dennis, in our comments, Head Trip is saying that it sounds like he agrees. And he says now judges are suing to stop the cleanup. What? Well, the deal is that the outgoing administration knew that Trump's administration was going to bring in Doge and all these other cleanup efforts with Elon and whoever. Kash Patel, for example, with the new director of the FBI,
Mhm.
Anna Paulina Luna, I believe, is a congresswoman who's going to be revealing a lot of these files, especially about UAPs and ET disclosure in the days and weeks and months and years to come. And so that Biden administration, on their way out, they made it sure to appoint as many judges who are friendly to them as possible. And you've got this huge Freemason network in the judicial and law enforcement systems, among so many others. And so that's why you're having this judicial rebellion trying to unconstitutionally stop the cleanup efforts while claiming that they're on the right side of the Constitution, which is not correct. My understanding is a lot of these agencies are executive agencies that the executive office totally has the right to administrate and execute over.
And a lot of times, unfortunately, Brian, when these organizations like the FBI, CIA, and some others, and like back in years ago, I was contacted trying to be recruited by the CIA, and I did not did not want that job. Definitely, I turned them down on that. But uh, the whole thing is, the whole thing is, when these organizations become so powerful, they think that they are the ultimate power. They think they are above the law. They think they are different than you and I, and they're above the law, and that's not right either. That's definitely not. And I like to see that brought down. Definitely, I think we all do. And these people, like Musk and some of these others, I have to applaud them because they are at least trying to do the right thing. And that's worth doing. The right thing's always worth doing. Absolutely.
Yes, it's the only thing worth doing. And if you don't do it, the consequences are ugly. They're nasty. And not only do they break bad on you and I, they break badly on our children and our grandchildren even worse.
Oh yeah.
And this opportunity we can't let go. I mean, there are people who are saying that their contacts are saying that this is like humanity's last chance to ascend. Otherwise, they just scrap us and start another experiment. I can happily report that we're ascending. We've succeeded. It's a matter of time. On this timeline, we're good to go. But stay strong. Don't be nervous in the service. Be on your path. Anchor in the light, and look for ways that you can embrace and be part of the new Earth. Be part of as this old systems are collapsing, we're going to need new media, new ways of growing food, new ways of producing things. We're going to have our own record labels and production companies because all this is democratized now. It's at our fingertips, and we can work together, and that's what the platform is going to be about, to a big extent, because we're going to have so many different aspects of it to bring people together and galvanize the movement, and everyone should be mutually beneficially working together so that we are all the wealthier. And that's how we pave the way and achieve our Star Trek future.
And to paraphrase Lovecraft, we don't want to go back because that way is madness.
No Lovecraft. No, we do not want anything Lovecraftian. Thank you. No.
I always have
I love
Lovecraft. He's
reading the
great.
Lovecraft, but I don't want to experience the Lovecraft. You can love the Lovecraft, but you don't want to have to love the Lovecraft.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely. He was a great writer. He was influenced greatly by my other favorite, Edgar Allan Poe, and you can tell how much of an influence he had on him. Definitely. Well, Lovecraft was great. I said I always wanted to attend Miskatonic University. Okay,
Yes,
that
yes,
would
and
be neat. But yeah, you definitely do not want to go into the world of Lovecraft. You would not want to live in that world, but it's fun. It's fun to read about.
exactly.
Definitely.
And apparently, those are he was disclosing very real things. Me, I don't know if you got the names or the language right or exactly what they look like, right? But I've heard these types of beings, like the squid type beings and the archonic type beings, being
Mhm.
described by people.
The
And
Hulu. Yeah.
thankfully, yeah, exactly, Cthulhu. But the light is always stronger, and it's even those beings serve their own purpose. They're part of creation. So
Hmm.
there's that.
What I always think is great about Lovecraft is he can create that creepy atmosphere. It really sets you up for it. He's really good at that. Definitely, he was a genius when it comes to stuff like that. But it's interesting when you look back at people like that, Brian. And I've been a great reader all my life. It is interesting how people that had been alive long or dead long before you read them can still touch you, can still connect with you. It's amazing. People
Are you a
you will never.
Lewis Lamore fan,
Yeah, I
Dennis?
always
Do
get
you like?
my idea of heaven. It's like a big, gigantic library with no end to it, and I could sit around the table and talk to these guys, and go over some of the stuff. That would be great. It would be
Well, the
great.
other side, the other
Yeah,
side apparently the other side does look like that, Dennis, where you do have the ability to quantum entangle and engage in those types of discussions
yeah.
with those beings because time and space don't really exist and it's all interconnected.
Yep, you get to interconnect with all that stuff. That we would need absolutely. Well, speaking of interconnection, it's been great having you here tonight, and we will definitely have to do this again, some more down the line, and see what other subjects we can get on. Okay, but I appreciate you being here so much tonight. It's been fantastic. Been a great
It's been
show.
a pleasure
Yeah.
and an honor, Dennis. Thank you for having me on. I love being on shows, especially the first time is a special thrill.
Well, thank you so much. So great to have you here. Definitely. And you got any closing thoughts you want to tell people out there? Anything
Yeah,
want to
I want
say?
to say I want to thank everyone who's especially now live with us in the audience, like Christy Campbell. She's a Montauk survivor. She also has an alter named Raylene, I believe it was, who was a Montauk project, but another alter who had to endure Mothers of Darkness Castle in Belgium, and so she was part of the programs. Maureen's a great moderator. I want to thank everyone else and in our chat for being here and people who watch later, and then like to ring the bell for the children who are still abducted and we're coming to get you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And it's been a great night in the chat room. Fantastic. And I appreciate all of you showing up tonight, showing your support. And some new people that's dropping in, please consider subscribing to the channel. We have a Patreon if you want to join that, or membership is also open on the YouTube channel, so you can become an official shadow hunter. If you want to join that, you can join that with us and have some very special content coming your way, definitely. And we appreciate you all being here tonight, and your support means the world to us. You know that, and it enables us to have people like Ryan and other people on here. and it's fantastic. We can get the outreach. And Brian, I appreciate you so much for being here, and it's been a fantastic evening. And I appreciate you, brother. I do definitely do, and especially with the full disclosure and all the stuff that you're working on. I hope everybody out there will support it, check it out, and go to it and do what needs to be done with it because that is a great endeavor. Absolutely. And appreciate you all once again. Let me put that up right quick. That's the info there for the Shadow Hunters thing, and that's that down. StreamYard doing some weird stuff tonight. I don't know what's whenever we get on certain subjects, you have some weird things happen.
We call it
That's the way it goes.
interference. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
interference definitely happens for sure. That is a thing. People
oh yeah,
getting voice to skull, headaches, electrical blackouts, all sorts of stuff. Yep. So
absolutely.
check us out at Full Disclosure
Maybe
Movement. Also, looks like we have Sean Bond in the audience, and also Cairo Sounds. Thanks for coming to all these shows and Head Trip. So that's Sean Bond, Wizard Moon. Sean Bond, psionicleague.com. Yep.
all
So
right.
Solar Be out, and thank you, everybody.
Okay. Well, we thank you all for being here tonight. It's been a great evening, and we will look forward to getting you back here again, Brian, pretty soon, and we'll do some more stuff. Thank you so much, and appreciate all of you out there in podcast land for showing up tonight for this show, and keep us in your thoughts and prayers, definitely. And we will see you again Friday night for another special edition of Paranormal Point of View. And don't forget that Aquarius rising tomorrow at 12 o'clock high noon Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be talking about some of the end time prophecies. You do not want to miss this show. This is like science fiction, folks. You need to hear this and you need to check it out. So that's tomorrow, 12 o'clock noon. Be there. And like I say, if some of you out there have not subscribed, please hit that subscription button, okay? And join us for more shows in the future. We're going to be reaching out with some other great guests. I've got a very special program planned for next week. Definitely don't want to miss this one for the next edition of Hunting the Shadows. Okay. Well, appreciate you all, definitely. And thank you so much for your time and effort. And we will definitely see you again Friday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Paranormal Point of View. And Monday, with my good friend Gerald Fountain, we will be going down the road less traveled. You definitely want to go with us down there. Absolutely. So appreciate you all so very much for being here. And that I hope you have happy trails ahead of you. You have a fantastic week, what's left of it, going down the line. Okay? And until we get together again, remember, fear no evil. Fear no evil. Don't live in fear. No. What you want to do is live free, my friends. And until we get together again, until we meet on this road once more, Godspeed. The hunt has begun. Hunting the shadows.